You can start with me. You can turn my mic on.
Welcome in to Late Night Puck Chat. Tonight is the night to talk about hockey.
Yeah, we were trying to film the show earlier to no avail. We had to look dapper though. We got a Florida show coming
We got
up.
some nice
haircuts. And it kind of ran in pretty close to dinner and practice time. We wanted to get some news out to all you listeners out there. So what better way to do it on a little laid-back Wednesday night segment here at just about 9:30. I like this life.
Do too.
Talking a little hockey late night, doing a little homework on the side. We got Cole Johnson to my right.
Good evening.
Doing a sound assignment. It's a nice old night at the radio station.
Yeah, definitely nice and calm. It's got a good vibe in here tonight.
It definitely does.
Where to start? Not the most exciting trade deadline. Definitely seeing a little bit more exciting, but it seems like just all the moves, the big ones, really happened before the deadline. Bishop going to LA, Shattenkirk to Washington. We're going to touch on all that, but we're going to just go right into it. Give you the rundown on all things that happened on March 1st, 2017 for the NHL Trade Deadline. We are going to start right off with the first trade of the day that broke early this morning. The Vancouver Canucks traded forward Yannick Henson to the San Jose Sharks for prospect Nikolai Goldman. How about that? And a conditional fourth-round pick in 2017. Goldman has proven himself to be a really young player. He hasn't really had any real stint in the NHL yet. He's mainly been in the AHL. And a lot of accomplishments as a junior player. Yannick Henson this year, he has played in the NHL for Vancouver. He has 28 games played, 6 goals and 7 assists, totaling 13 points. So, nothing crazy here, just a little bit of depth. Sharks get a little bit younger. It's really just a lot of depth moves. I mean, there's nothing really you can say too crazy about the deadline except for just depth.
You and I sort of had a grasp on what conditional picks were, though, but after following the deadline so closely this year, I think and I realized how crazy those conditionals can get and how many things have to go right or wrong, or all of these stipulations that could change, a fourth to a third, or a third to a second, a seventh even to a fifth, or something.
Like Shattenkirk playing in 50% of the games.
Yeah.
Another depth move. Nothing too crazy for the Colorado Avalanche and Arizona Coyotes in this one. Avalanche traded Joe Whitney forward to the Arizona Coyotes for the forward Brendan Ranford. And they made another one with the Capitals, where Avalanche traded away defenseman Cody Corbett to the Capitals for goalie Joe Canada. Just a couple of depth moves there. Young guys getting traded back and forth. Then we'll get into the interesting ones right here. Goodness, excuse me. The Los Angeles Kings traded forward Dwight King to Montreal Canadiens for a conditional fourth-round pick in the 2018 draft. Now, this was Montreal first really making a splash on deadline day. They had a very, very good deadline day, probably the best out of all the teams in the NHL. Dwight King, very scrappy, tough guy. He stands at 6'4", 230 pounds. And like you said before we came on, Montreal's been looked at as being a soft team. I mean, they got all those little guys that go out there and score goals. You mentioned Galchenyuk, Pacioretty. But they really added some grit with bringing in Shea Weber in the offseason. But Dwight King, he's 6'5", 230. He's played in 63 games this year for the Kings with 8 goals, 7 assists, 15 points. I mean, not really much of a goal scorer, but, he knows how to do it. I mean, he's going to go out there and he's going to try and bang guys up a little bit and try and play a little rough on the edge, make it easier for those guys up top.
Yeah, this summer when Weber came to Montreal, I really saw that as sort of a changing of the guard for the Canadians, because the last few seasons they've had, as we mentioned a lot, hot starts and then early exits come playoff time because they just get out physical, or they get outplayed physically by teams. Come April, May, the end of the season, they're worn down, and they're even more worn down by the opposition, because they were always seen and they play as more of a finesse style team, whether it be on offense and defense.
Yeah,
and a lot of teams were able to just break that down, because if you're able to, it's not that much of a barrier. So PK Subban, he was loved there in Montreal, but when I saw that they were willing to deal him, and really put the fan base,
bringing some grit,
right, exactly, to the expense of the fan base, they know they're getting back Shea Weber, and they know they're going to get back a thumper.
Yeah,
and that was the start of it all. He's even boosted the play of a guy like Alexei Emelin, who's really had sort of he was always known as a pretty renowned defenseman, pretty physical guy, but he's had a coming out party playing with Weber this year. They're getting gritty down in the third, fourth lines. They have those sort of depth forwards that they're bringing in now. They made a lot of as we, we're going to use this word a lot tonight in terms of depth because there wasn't many major moves. There was major moves spoken of in the last 24, 48, 72 hours, but when it came down to it, it was more of those almost formality moves that may not seem like, groundbreaking, electrifying deals here on March 1st, but they could make a difference come postseason time. And I think, Montreal getting a little bit tougher here and there could pay dividends come playoff time for a team that's kind of had, their struggles in recent memory.
Yeah. My apologies, I skipped over one. The first move they made today was actually going out to acquire forward Steve Ott from the Detroit Red Wings, and they sent the Red Wings back a 6th-round pick in the 2018 draft. Steve Ott this year has appeared in 42 games played in the NHL with 3 goals, 3 assists for 6 points. And again, another depth move, another scrappy player. We've seen him in Buffalo. We've seen him all over the place. I'm going to have to check, but I'm pretty sure this man has been involved in the last 5 trade deadlines. This guy's been moving all over the place. But a scrappy young guy who has seen playoffs. So add to a little bit of playoff experience. Just nothing really more than that. I mean, just another scrappy guy. Willing to go out there and draw some blood and get in the fight. So that's good for a team headed into the playoffs. Not afraid to step up and help the team out a little bit. Moving right along. Where are we? Oh, yes. More like no. I'm going to say no. Because I've been on the fence about this.
Iginla.
Jerome Iginla finally getting out of Colorado. Waived his no trade clause, and Colorado Avalanche sent Jerome Iginla to the LA Kings for a conditional 4th-round pick in the 2018 draft. Just looking at this now, I understand it's conditional, but only 4th-rounder for Jerome. I understand he's having an off year, but still, 61 games played, 8 goals, 10 assists, 18 points. He is 39 years old. He made a statement today about the trade. He does not know what his future holds for him yet. Will he retire? Will he find another team? Will he stay with the Kings? Don't really know, but definitely good to see him come out of Colorado. And with the moves that LA's been making, who knows what could happen. They got Ben Bishop basically in net now for at least the first couple of weeks as the starter, from what we're going to guess after going out and getting him. Said they're going to give Quick a little bit of time off, come back and get 110%. We talked about this yesterday. So
I don't think LA was even close to the top of Iginla's choices, though.
I don't think it was. He was
making
very
noise.
Oh, I would have loved, but I would have hated to see him go to Edmonton. I thought he would have been a much better fit in Edmonton. He had strong ties to Edmonton all day. I had to refresh my Twitter probably around 500 times a day. Just sitting there, just refreshing, looking for any type of rumor or just talk or a source saying stuff. But, yeah, I just don't think LA was the right fit for him. I don't think LA has that much of a legitimate shot at a cup as, say, maybe Edmonton or other teams, but you never know. You never know when them come playoff time.
Back in 2012, they were an 8 seed out of the West.
That is true,
and we know what happened that year. There's something in the water out there in recent memory that they can just make things happen in the playoffs. But in terms of favorites to win the cup right now, as much as they've made a real statement that they don't think they're dead yet, how much... we always praise good defense, good goaltending, and they've got the Dowdies of the world there on defense, and Jake Muzzin. But how much can 2 goaltenders do for you? Bishop's had an off year, but he's turned it around recently, and Jonathan Quick has played a total of 2 games this year. As much as their track record speaks for them, at one point, I would not be surprised that they're going to be losing a lot of maybe 1-0, 2-1 games just because they have the great goaltending. But how much is Iginla going to help on offense? It's if they make a wild card, they go on them.
They did say that he is going to be playing with Kopitar, so that can hopefully increase Kopitar's production. Yeah, I had the same look when I read that tweet earlier.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure it was via Bob McKenzie, but I'm not positive on that. We have to double check. But yeah, they did say that he will be playing on a line with Kopitar, which is good for both of them, so maybe it'll increase both their production.
Yeah, it's yet to be seen.
Yeah.
There was, like I said, there was definitely teams that were probably higher on his target list of where he wanted to be traded to waive that no trade. But like we said, LA's been in this position before. They've gone into the playoffs at a very low, actually the lowest seeding possible, and they've made noise before. If they're able to squeak in, then they have the track record and the pretty recent history to really prove the naysayers wrong and see what they can do come May, June in the long toils of a playoff series.
And I apologize. That was John Shannon from Hockey Central on Sportsnet who tweeted that one out. So they do expect him to start alongside Kopitar, as we already mentioned. And moving right along again, more depth moves out of New York. The Rangers traded Justin Fontaine forward to the Edmonton Oilers for Taylor Beck straight up. And then again with the Canadiens. Following that, Montreal Canadiens traded away Sven Andrighetto to the Colorado Avalanche for Andres Martinson. Sven Andrighetto, prospect out of Montreal. This year he's appeared in 27 games, 2 goals, 6 assists with 8 points. He is a prospect, very young. Going to Colorado, they can build that farm system up a little bit more, so that's good to see that Colorado's doing that, as we all know, that are in the rebuilding process. And Andres Martinson, again, it's just the theme of Montreal's deadline. He only has 3 goals and 4 assists and 7 points in 55 games this year for Colorado, but the man's 6'3", 220. Like, if they're trying to make they're making a statement. They're doing a very good job on going out and getting big-bodied, scary hockey players. I mean, for being a team that was known as being small and just, ratty, they're going to go out there and they're going to be a big hockey team now.
It's not the worst mentality to have.
Yeah. No draft picks involved. That was Andrighetto for Martinson straight up. And then, goalie for goalie, this one was weird. I got to look into this a little bit more. But Tampa Bay traded away Adam Wilcox to the Florida Panthers for Mike McKenna. So I'm guessing AHL goalies straight up. And then, what possibly might be my favorite trade of the day. I ranked this one really high on my rankings list. The Red Wings traded away Thomas Vanek to the Florida Panthers for defenseman Dylan Mickelrath and a conditional 3rd-round pick in the 2017 draft. This might be my favorite trade of the day, my favorite trade of all the deadline. Not only biased because it's Vanek, and he obviously was Buffalo Sabre, but he's having a very good year for being 33 years old, and we all know that he's been slumping the last couple of years, but he has 48 games played. He got off to a hot start.
He really did. He was leading.
I'm pretty sure he had like 12 goals in the first 3 weeks, and he only has 15 now. But still, 15 goals, 23 assists, 38 points in 48 games played. Very good. They go on to a very young Florida team that we talked about with Huberdeau, Barkov, Ekblad, and all the rest of them. I mean, it's good to see. I mean, you can't even say that there's going to be a depth guy. He could easily be thrown in their second line. He could be playing with Yager, Barkov, Huberdeau. Either way, this is a great move by Florida to go out and get Vanek. I mean, he's also an unrestricted free agent either, so either they can use him as a rental or sign him for cheap next year. I mean, I think he's only getting paid like $2 million.
It's a nice sense of security too.
Yeah.
You never. I mean, you got to prepare for it, but you don't wish for it. But they have a couple young skaters that had just returned 2 weeks ago, Jonathan Huberdeau and Alexander Barkov. So to have this fairly cheap security blanket, who's been in the playoffs before, which you can't teach, and is having a pretty outstanding year for 33 years old. He's kind of turned back the clock a little bit after a couple of tough seasons. It really is a nice fit in all aspects, in terms of the price range that you get him for, not going over the top. Giving Detroit their due, because give them credit. Vanek was having a great season for them, so you got to pay for what you're getting for, but it seemed just about even for both sides. Detroit can plan a little bit for the future, and Florida did not overbid on a man. I think they did it just right for a guy who's 33 and have a really good season.
Yeah.
You don't want to go second, first rounder for a guy that you may lose come July 1st. So I think it was a very good trade on both ends, and I think Florida's going to reap a lot of benefits for him. Playing with a lot of young guys as well as Yager, those guys are going to be able to mentor the Barkovs and Huberdeaus and Vinny Trocheck's of the world pretty nicely.
Yeah.
And have
he definitely will be
another
a nice
piece to the offense that seems to be coming alive a little bit more every day that goes by after a really tough start.
Definitely. Then moving on, a team that we talked about that needed to try and go all out at the deadline. They did a pretty good job at it, in my opinion. I think this is a steal. I mean, I don't know too much about Dalton Prout, but the Blue Jackets traded away defenseman Dalton Prout to the New Jersey Devils straight up for defenseman Kyle Quincy. We all knew who Kyle Quincy is. He's a veteran defenseman. Pretty good at what he does. Not really known too much for the offensive side, but he's 53 games played this year, 4 goals, 8 assists for 12 points. But he's a very trustworthy defenseman that can really lock down that blue line. And we're going to talk about the other trade they got to, but they were one of the youngest teams in the league. And bringing in 2 veteran guys is exactly what we used to talk about last couple of weeks on Puck Chat when we were talking about trades. So definitely very good to see Columbus going out and filling some holes that they needed. And we're just going to jump right to that other Columbus trade. They trade away defenseman Dylan Hetherington to the Dallas Stars for forward Lori Korpikoski. Now, Korpikoski, more of like a depth guy, but still more veteran presence in that lineup. 60-game play this year, 8 goals, 12 assists for 20 points. But again, just more veteran depth I can add to that team. And fun fact, Korpikoski played briefly for John Tortorella as a New York Ranger. He is now reunited with John Tortorella as a Columbus Blue Jacket. So, that's good to see.
Did you see John Tortorella go ballistic last night?
Yes, I did. I didn't see the goal, but I did just see the video of him walking down the ice screaming at a ref.
It was more about the penalty that was called with about 2:03 left in overtime. It basically gave, oh Lord, I'm losing my. Oh, it was a Montreal game. Yeah, that was it. They were. Oh yeah, it was a great matchup. Price and Bobrovsky. I ended up watching the end of that, and then, yeah, it was like bout for bout. Penalty called with about 2:03. Tortorella lost his mind. He didn't think it was a hook, and then go figure. About 30 seconds later, the game is lost with a 4-on-3 situation. I'm getting a little bit. I just remembered that watching NHL Network. But yeah, that fiery guy, man. But it's gonna be. I think Tortorella's gonna like having a guy that he's, coached in the past, back under his reign.
Yeah, definitely. Now we're gonna talk about one of the weirdest things. I thought it was a typo when I looked at my phone about this. Mark Streit had a really weird day. Very weird day. So first, Tampa Bay, which I do like this trade a little bit, but I'm gonna get to the complications about it in a little bit. Tampa Bay traded Valtteri Filppula and a 4th-round pick and a conditional 7th-round pick in the 2017 draft to the Philadelphia Flyers for Mark Streit. So Mark Streit becomes a Tampa Bay Lightning for about 30 minutes. And then, Tampa Bay trades Mark Streit to the Pittsburgh Penguins for a 4th-round pick in the 2018 draft. What a weird day.
Do you think the first time that Pittsburgh visits Tampa Bay, they're going to have like a thank you video for Mark Streit for all of his time spent in Tampa?
The whole 30 minutes.
Just imagine that, like, as a player, just like calling your wife. I'm just guessing he's married. Calling your wife, hey, got traded to Tampa Bay. Oh, cool. I'll start looking, maybe some houses and stuff. And then, put the phone down. It's like, hey, been traded to Pittsburgh.
It's like Andrew.
Honey, don't call. I'm going to Pittsburgh instead.
Oh, how did it go?
We got on a plane to Tampa and then had to fly all the way back to Pittsburgh.
It was like Andrew Haney a couple off seasons ago. He was traded from the Marlins to the Dodgers, I think involved in a D. Gordon trade. And then the Dodgers shipped him literally across like a bridge, across town to the Angels in like an hour. And he thanked the organization of the Dodgers for all the time he spent there on Twitter. Got a big kick, but it's I wouldn't say it's frequent, but it happens more often than we probably think. Especially with the deadline or a crazy off season. Some teams are actually in conversations with a third party and they use a player they get as leverage. And there's no question in my mind that way before this trade, I think Tampa and Pittsburgh had something up their sleeve.
Geez, if I did that in NHL, I would get fired as a GM.
They get mad. There's my 2
they
cents.
do.
That's my 2 cents.
My team's morale would go down.
I don't think you should be trading guys as soon as you bring them in.
Yeah.
Sign them and trade them.
Sign them and trade them. But yeah, we're going to talk about this for a minute. Valtteri Filppula going in, the freshly new Flyer. Fresh Flyer. I like that. What do you think about this as a Flyers fan?
I think it was necessary. From the get-go, I thought he was one of the pieces that the Flyers had. No matter if they were in contention or not, I think his time was up in Philly. Just the writing on the wall between the three budding defensemen in Lehigh Valley right now, whichever one potentially wants to step up in his place in the coming months, or maybe 2017, 2018. But Hag, Sanheim, and Warren, the ball is in their court right now in terms of who wants to take Mark Streit's spot. It wasn't exactly the return that I had pictured and envisioned in my head of maybe going a little bit younger like most teams wanted these days. My mock-up trade was to get together with Montreal because they wanted to get a little bit tougher on defense and maybe get one of their prospects. Valtteri Filppula kind of threw me off, and then you and I were talking about if it was like a cap move, like moving money for money, but they have pretty comparable contracts. Mark Streit is finished after this season, but Filppula still has a year.
Filppula does have another year left. He has a $5 million cap hit So that's what I said that was going to be a little iffy, because you're talking about all the time how whether or not Ron Hextall is going to want to pay somebody or not. So the question is he going to be here to stay, or do you think Hextall is probably going to move him in the offseason?
I would see him moving in the offseason.
It also really depends on the direction that Hextall thinks that this team wants to go, because when I was looking around on online today about Mark Streit, I found I don't know if you've had to see him before. It was like the Broad Street Hockey blog page,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just all these people saying how they think that Philly should just clean house and start rebuilding. I personally don't think that's the answer. I don't think
so either.
I don't think they're far away from playoffs. Steve Mason, I think, is having a bad year. The whole
just
team
locked up Michael Neuberth.
Yeah, the whole team. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that later too.
That too.
Yeah, the whole team I think is having a bad year. Claude's having a bad year.
Did you see the news that I saw? We'll
About
get to it later. We'll see if we have comparable stories. But yes, no, this team was not far from playoffs. The offense is fine. They're all in their prime. Nobody needs to be hitting the panic button. And even now, we've seen a little bit of a sneak peek into the future. We saw Travis Konechny in the beginning of the year, have a pretty solid start. Now he's down with injury, and go figure, with the young guy's injury at 19, 20 years old, as much as you wanted to see Konechny play an entire season, he can rehab, get ready for the next season. And in his place, you get another look into the future in Jordan Wheel, who scored his first NHL goal last night against the Avalanche in a 4-0 win. He's going to be a part of the offense moving forward. And again, they have the young defensive core. They can make a core of two whole lines with Gostisbehere, Hag, Sanheim, and Morin. Piece the rest together with veterans. You have Simmons locked up long term. You have the likes of Giroux and Voracek in town. Raffl's a great depth guy. The list goes on and on. The team has the pieces. The goaltending will be answered in the offseason. No matter who they protect, who they plan on keeping, that's the point I want to see if we have, the same stories locked up on, because I saw something, I'm just not sure if you saw it, and we'll get to that.
We'll talk about that after all the trades.
Yeah.
But yeah, Phil Blood does have 7 goals, 27 assists this year for 34 points, and just running through the numbers for Streit, he has 49 games played, 5 goals, I almost said 50. 5 goals, 16 assists, 21 points. So, 10 out of 10 for Pittsburgh, by the way. Even though it was a weird day for Mark Streit, this is a move that Pittsburgh jumped on, and I give it a 10 out of 10. I would call Mark Streit about a top 4 forward, and that's what they needed right now with the absences of Oli Mata, Trevor Daley, and Chris Letang, I believe, is still day-to-day.
Yep.
So they're missing 3 of their top 4 defensemen. They're bringing Mark Streit. That's going to be huge. Right now, he's their top defenseman, and that's huge for maybe competing for that spot on Philly with Shane.
Yeah.
So maybe taking in a little bit of pressure, but definitely going to be huge moving across the state for Mark Streit. So I just think that's what we were saying the other day that Pittsburgh had to go out and do, is go out and find themselves a top 4 defenseman. I think that's what they did in Mark Streit.
How about the new assistant captain? Who do you think's going to take Streit's place? Right now it's Giroux as the captain and Simmons as an assistant.
I would imagine Voracek.
Seems like a safe bet.
Yeah. What do we got next? New Jersey Devils. They traded away forward P.A. Parento to the Nashville Predators for a 6th-round pick in the 2017 draft. Where's Parento? Parento has 27 points this year with 59 games played, 13 goals, 14 assists. I think they lowball him a little bit here with only a 6th-round pick. I mean, everything that Arizona got in return just for Hansel and Ryan White. I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought the bar would be set a little bit higher for things like that, but oh well. I guess.
Beggars can't be choosers, I guess.
Yeah. Then the Ottawa Senators traded away forward Curtis Lazar, young guy, and defenseman Michael Koska to the Calgary Flames for defenseman Jyrki Jokipaka. That's such a fun name. And 2nd-round pick in the 2017 draft. Lazar this year has 33 games played and 1 point. And it was an assist.
Nice.
Jokipaka, very good defensive man. Was on the blue line. He's 38 games played this year, 1 goal, 5 assists, 6 points. So, yeah. It's more little moves. I mean, Ottawa in a good position for playoffs right now. Calgary's fighting for it. I mean, Yoki Paka is definitely going to help out that defensive core for Ottawa with Erik Karlsson and company. I think it was a good move for Ottawa to go out and get another decent blue liner. And then I always get these mixed up. They get a second-round pick in the 2017 draft as well.
For Lazar, yeah.
Yeah, so I think Ottawa won that trade. I mean, Lazar only has 1 point in 33 games. I understand he has potential, but just a lot of head-scratching moves a little bit. Then moving on, the Toronto Maple Leafs trade defenseman Frank Corrado to the Pittsburgh Penguins for forward Eric Fair, Steve Alexi, and a 4th-round pick in the 2017 draft. Another head-scratcher. Corrado's very young. He only has 2 games played this year and 69 total in the NHL. Before Toronto, he was in Toronto last year as well. Before that, he was in Vancouver for 3 seasons, but he only has 69 total games played in the NHL. Very young, but definitely something that Pittsburgh needs is more defensemen. Maybe they're trying to build for the future as well with a young defenseman, getting rid of Alexi, who's in his
12th.
31, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's
31.
11th or 12th season.
And then veteran Eric Fair as well. So the veteran presence on the offense and defense is definitely going to help out Toronto. So I think this is a win-win for both teams.
I can agree with that. Yeah, Toronto did a really good job, especially with this trade.
Especially with they were saying all week, we're not doing anything at deadline, not doing anything at deadline. They did the one trade, I think it was on Saturday, and they said, we're done. But
it's like,
yeah, apparently they weren't done.
How about the trades that didn't happen?
I'm getting to that, don't worry.
Okay, all right.
I'm getting to that. And the last real big trade of the day, I mean, there was Chicago trading Sam Carrick and Spencer Abbott to the Anaheim Ducks for Kenton Helgeson and a 7th-round pick, but that's just more depth moves. Nothing really too crazy. Then the Winnipeg Jets... Winnipeg Jets trade Drew Stafford to the Boston Bruins for a conditional 6th-round pick in the 2018 draft. Oh, man.
Is this going to be a bias?
Shipping up the Boston.
Oh, no.
40 games played, 4 goals, 9 assists, 13 points for Drew Stafford. Like that, Paul? Nice. All right. I don't understand this move. I'm not going to lie to you or anybody else listening. I don't understand this move at all. I don't know why Boston wanted to go out and get somebody like Drew Stafford. I'm pretty sure he's making stupid money as well.
I believe he is.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's making like $4 or $5 million, and that's just unbelievable. But who knows? Maybe they'll really use him. But with that, we're going to head into our first break, and then we're going to rank the biggest trades that happened in this deadline. We're going to talk about the Michael Neuvirth situation, goaltending situation for Philly, the Claude Giroux rumors, and all the rumors and trades that didn't happen. So stay tuned, and we'll be back after this quick break. We're back here on Puck Chat, just about at the 10 o'clock hour here at Medai College. We're going to get right back into our 2017 trade deadline talk. We're going to rank all the trades, not all the trades. Just going to rank about our top 8, top 7 trades that happened in the last couple of days or so. So we're going to get right to it. This is all my opinion, by the way. Start right with it. Start with number 7. The 1st-round pick in 17, 2nd in 18, and the conditional 2019 picks to Arizona. I love this. I really did. I think this is huge for Arizona, who's a team that's in a rebuild. And it's the fact that they got that from Hansel and White, which I ranked as my 6th best trade at the deadline. Martin Hansel and Ryan White going to Minnesota. I think both of these were just great deals. I mean, Arizona got so much out of that. A lot more than probably me or anybody really think they should have got. But I think Arizona actually probably won this deal because they get a 1st, a 2nd, and then a conditional pick as well for the next 3 years is huge as a franchise. I mean, that's exactly what you want to do when you're a team like Arizona and in a rebuild. So it's definitely good for both teams, but I think it's better for Arizona. But Minnesota definitely needed that depth, and they got it with the Hansel and White. We'll move on to number 5. I'm going to switch it up, actually. No, I'm going to keep it. Jerome McGinley to L.A. We already talked about this. McGinley possibly retiring at the end of the year. He's a UFA after this season. Just dying to win a cup. go to a winning team, being stuck in Colorado for the last couple of years. Not happy, waived his no-trade clause, got shipped off to L.A. So maybe they can get him a cup, maybe they can give him a good run. Maybe he'll ride off into the sunset like Peyton Manning. Or maybe he just won't make the playoffs and ask for another trade deadline and get traded during the playoffs.
Iginla?
I'm totally kidding.
Hopefully in the offseason he'd find a team that he wouldn't have to be traded for at the deadline with.
Moving on, number 4 on my list. I put Kevin Shattenkirk to Washington. I only put this one so low because I usually don't agree with angry Twitter people. But I did agree on this one. No matter what Washington does, it always seems like they lose in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. And for them to go out and get a stud like Kevin Shattenkirk and not let anybody else have any fun really made me mad. But I do think it is a good move by Washington. All jokes aside, definitely a good move by Washington to go out and get another very good blue liner. Shattenkirk is a UFA at the end of the year, though, so my guess is he's strictly going to be a rental player if he shut down that, would have been an extension to Tampa Bay of that rumored trade that we believe is true. It was verified by Bob McKenzie.
Which one?
How Shattenkirk turned down a deal. Wasn't it Tampa?
Is that what he revealed it as?
I'm pretty sure it was Tampa. Then they offered him an extension.
Yes.
Yes. So, moving straight to it. This one I'm going to switch up. Number 3, Vanek to Florida. I'm going to move that into my top 3. Thomas Vanek going to Florida. I just talked about this before the break. If you missed it, I do think that this is one of the best trades that happened. Florida definitely still needed a little bit more of a veteran presence to go along with Vinny Trocheck, Huberdeau, and Barkov. I mean, they had with Jaromir Jagr, but to have Vanek, who is most likely going to be a 20-goal scorer this year, playing along with those 3 young guys on Jagr, who are all very skilled hockey players. Very good trade on Florida's part. And number 2, just talked about this one as well. Mark Streit to Tampa and then to Pittsburgh. Very weird day for Mark Streit, but at the end of the day, he ends up being a Pittsburgh Penguin, and this is definitely something that Pittsburgh needed. They needed another top 4 forward. We already mentioned how Olli Mata, Trevor Daley, and Chris Letang have been banged up. Letang's only day-to-day, but Daley and Olli Mata are more long-term, but Chris Letang has been in and out of the lineup all year, dealing with multiple different injuries. I believe one was a concussion. The other one might have been a leg issue. Pretty sure there was a third one, but it's definitely good for them to go out and get a nice gritty defenseman. Hold down that blue line for him. And number 1. You're going to scratch your head at this one, I think.
Bishop.
Number 1, Ben Bishop to Los Angeles. Thank you, Paul.
I knew it.
Paul's in here. We'll bring him on the show a little later, talk some Buffalo Sabres. He's our Buffalo Sabres insider. No, but Ben Bishop to LA, I think, is the best trade at this deadline. Granted, it wasn't on deadline day, so it wasn't as exciting. I think it happened on, Friday night? Thursday night, maybe?
Let me see. I believe it was late last week.
Anyway.
Bishop to the Kings.
Yeah, Ben Bishop to the LA Kings. We already talked about this. I think it's a great move since they're really trying to contend for the Cup now. Especially since they're still a couple points out of the playoffs that they needed.
Sunday.
It was Sunday.
Sunday, he and Hansel.
Sunday.
Trades.
But, let me see. LA is only 1 point out of a playoff spot now. They're 1 point out of the wild card. Wow, would you look at that? They are, wow. Yeah, 8 points out of the division though.
Wow.
Yeah, Anaheim has the 3rd spot with 74 points, but Calgary has 72 right behind them. Wow. Then the LA Kings have 66. So, good chance they could get a wild card spot, but still, they said they didn't want to bring Johnny Quick right back into game action right away, so they bring in Ben Bishop. So they're basically doing the same thing that Pittsburgh's doing with the 2 number 1 goaltenders.
2 starters, yeah.
Yeah, so now we're going to get into, speaking of Penguins, guys that didn't go anywhere that we thought were rumored to be really hot on the trade market. Start off with Fleury. Fleury was a guy that I thought was actually going to get shopped around, a little bit more involved in rumors. But,
Jim Rutherford shot that down.
Yes. I was thinking of the name. Yeah, he said that the market for goaltending was very slim. Teams were asking for too much, or they just weren't interested.
That surprises me.
Yeah, it surprised me too, especially for teams like Calgary that we mentioned, Dallas, if they even wanted to make a push or maybe try and build for the future. I mean, because I don't think they're going to go anywhere with Andy Niemi or Kerry Lettinen. They've both been awful this year. I mean, they weren't even that good last year.
No, the offense carried him this year, and now it's just a total falling out.
Yeah. I think one of the bigger ones that didn't happen that we were getting really, really, really excited about was Matt Duchene.
Yeah.
Very upset he didn't go anywhere. I mean, we don't wish guys to move and have them have their lives be all hectic, but Duchene was rumored to maybe go over to the Islanders, and that was very strong talks around noon today, and it started building up over the weekend of talks of him potentially going to the island, and just the thought of him playing with Johnny T, them two being on the same line, that's two incredible hockey players playing together. So we were getting excited just thinking about that. There were other spots they're saying that he could have landed, but along with Landeskog, they didn't go anywhere. Again, the only notable to leave, Colorado. And another one, Shane Doan.
Yep. Shane Doan and Ryan Miller were the ones that came to mind for me. Aside from the top ones, I was just thinking of more of the veterans that maybe could have gotten one more shot. Turns out, I guess Doan must have said, hey, just keep me here if you don't find the right price. Probably looking out for the organization at this point.
I think it was more that they did get calls, but he didn't just he said that he didn't want to leave just for the sake of leaving.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to go somewhere where he knows that he would have a very good shot at a cup because, like we said on Tuesday, he's been in Arizona his whole life. That's all he's ever known since walking into professional hockey, or the NHL, I should say. And it is sad to leave that team that you've been with all your career, but he hasn't got a cup. He hasn't really been a winner, really, most of his career. So, but he loves it there. Like I said, that's all he's ever known. So, I don't know. And then, who else?
Ryan Miller.
Yeah, Ryan Miller. They shut that down real early today.
Yeah.
They shut that down, I think, might have been before noon today. GM of Vancouver came out and just said, we are not trading Ryan Miller straight up. Which that also did surprise me, but like you said, it's just the market for goaltending apparently was just very, very small. Was not good at all. So, which like you said, surprises me a lot because there are so many teams out there that we mentioned needed goaltending. I mean, even just a backup. I mean, Ryan Miller could have played just as a backup role. I didn't really see him being a starter anywhere, but I was very surprised that they came out and said that they weren't going to trade him because they still probably could have gotten a decent amount for him, maybe a prospect or some draft pick. I mean, another hot name out of Buffalo, Evander Kane. A lot of people thought he was going to get traded, but I didn't think he should have. We're going to talk about that later. About what the Sabres did or really didn't do at the deadline, but he did not get traded. There was ties that Minnesota and Nashville were bidding hard on Evander Kane.
Yeah.
Tim Murray didn't bite the bait, didn't give him away, and I really liked that they didn't give him up because the one report that I saw was that if they trade Evander Kane to Nashville, then the Sabres were going to get James Neal in return. What in the heck is that going to do for you? Evander Kane could be a 30-plus goal scorer this year. I don't think James Neal has eclipsed 15 yet.
Just not a lot of assists to go with his credit. He may be around 15 to 18 if we were to look. But, yeah, far lower than his career output.
And before we touch
Plus it puts you in the same boat.
Yeah.
With an albatross of a contract for a guy that's not going to give you as much production.
Exactly. And before we touch on the Neuwirth and Claude Giroux rumors, along with other rumors that happened, quick rundown on your winners and losers of the deadline.
Well, LA really put themselves in a good position.
Obviously. LA would be my second best winner.
Trying to think back to teams involved. Minnesota did a good job filling out their roster, I believe, with one trade. It came at a high price, but they're in a win-now mode, so I think considering where that team has themselves in terms of the statehood of the team, I think they did a good job addressing maybe the third and fourth lines because their top lines have been high-tier production so far, and I think giving Hansel a chance to be able to winner as well as Ryan White, who's been to the playoffs with a couple teams now, I think that's going to be a good trade, and it helps out both clubs involved. with Arizona being able to build for the future by giving off pieces they had. Toronto sort of sneakily helped out their defense. I think there was a lot of teams that did a lot of nice things. Montreal was one of my winners as well.
Montreal would be my top winner.
Ottawa was sneaky too. Paul made a good point. Alexander Buros coming in.
Yeah, we didn't really mention too many
shuffle.
of the older trades, but yeah.
Losers, Colorado.
Yes,
They had a chance to really beef up.
they really did. They had a chance to really beef up their prospects and beef up some draft picks, and they chose not to.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, they probably really didn't choose to. They probably just couldn't find the right price. But still, even if you're looking to get rid of them, do it now. Don't wait for the offseason. Do it now. Get those draft picks for this year's draft, or even just get prospects. I didn't really understand their thought process behind that one too much.
Well, they probably think they're a year or two away from getting a better goaltender in there and maybe retaining the young talent they have because, I don't know, that's the only thing that I can kind of allude to.
Mm-hmm. I would say the Red Wings were losers. I mean, they got rid of those old guys, but they didn't get anything in return.
They had nothing to offer.
They got very low draft picks.
They traded Steve Ott and
Arizona are big winners.
Thomas Yurko.
Thomas Yurko, Brendan Smith, and Steve Ott is not going to give you a lot to build for the future
Vanek.
with. Thomas Vanek was the best thing they had to give. Dylan Larkin has had a lackluster
They got
sophomore
to
campaign.
figure it out.
Honestly, think of the team. Thomas Tatar, he's in sort of this amorphous state.
Mhm.
Gustav Nyquist may still be serving a suspension.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he is. I'm pretty sure when you
Howard and Mrazek can get you nothing, plus the goaltending market was very low. They didn't have anything that they could really build for the future with in this tough season. Going to a new arena, you really want to have that really strong first season, but they were in this tough scenario where they barely squeaked by into the playoffs last year.
Mhm.
The Magic's not back this year, and they have no weapons, no pieces to give off. I can't really call them winners or losers because they just simply didn't have the resources to give themselves an opportunity in the future. They just got to hit the reset button and hope that guys, play like the back of their hockey cards come 2017. Honestly,
my biggest loser though is the Boston Bruins. Their only
Why's that?
real move, I think it might have been their only move. I'm gonna have to double check. Was acquiring Drew Stafford.
I don't think they wanted to mess with much. The way that they've been playing under Bruce Cassidy, they're 7-1.
They have
That's not
72.
something you really
They
need
have
to
72
fix.
points right now, tied with Ottawa. But they hold the third spot in the Atlantic Division, with the Islanders creeping up behind them, Florida creeping up behind them. Tampa Bay slowly making their way back too. That's very odd.
What's in a perfect world? What do you think they could have done to be winners?
They were trying to get Yaroslav Halak. Yaroslav Halak was a loser too. Loser at the deadline. I would have loved to see him go somewhere and have almost like a Cinderella story. Nice little comeback. They were talking about trading away Matt Bolesky, and that could have got him a pretty penny. Oh wait, no, did they trade away Bolesky? God, seeing rumors and everything, you can never remember what's real and what's not. But I would have liked to see Yaroslav Halak go to Boston and just serve as more of a backup. I thought that would have been a good role for him.
I can't call him a loser. That's where I'm going to have to disagree with you. Had they had a slower start under the interim coach, I would say, yeah, call him a loser, bring in another thing. You already tried the coach, now it's time to try the product on the ice. But the product on the ice has been producing. And he doesn't get a great rap, especially not here in WMCB, but Brad Marchand's been the backbone of that offense this season, and he has shown no signs of stopping or slowing down recently. And he's made the rest of that team better this year with better than a point per game. And, it's one of those things where, sure, you'd love to beef yourself up and kind of gear up for the playoffs, but Tuukka Raski's having an excellent year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a serviceable backup will do them just fine. And the offense has clicked itself together with a new pace. They're not going for the aggressive style anymore. They're working on that. That was the first announcement after the Julian firing and Cassidy coming as an interim. He wanted to really address working on a more faster paced game and trying to keep the puck in the offensive zone for a lot longer for this team for Boston. And they've taken one loss in 8 games under Cassidy. He's off to a great start. The team's flying high. It's just one of those things right now where I think that it's okay that they stood pat, because if it's not broke, you don't fix it.
Mm-hmm. There are winners and losers of the deadline. Before we head into our last break and touch on the Buffalo Sabres and their deadline, we want to talk about Michael Neuwirth a little bit more and the goaltending situation in Philly. So, the reason why we're scratching our head at this is because they signed. Do we know how long it was? We know it was multi-year.
Let me just get it. I think it was 2 years.
Either way, it was a multi-year extension for Michael Neuwirth. And Mason expires this year, correct?
Yes.
Mason's contract expires. But after they re-signed Neuwirth today, they made a statement saying that they're going to lock up Anthony Stolarz for the expansion draft.
I like Stoli.
I did too.
But I didn't know that they liked him enough to have him to be the choice of the three as the one they lock up. Yeah, it makes sense because he's the youngest, but I didn't think he had that much confidence within the organization quite yet to be the one they wanted to butt around the future with. That surprised me, but I'm excited about it. But the extension confuses me.
And the Las Vegas Golden Knights are officially an NHL team now. They could have made moves today.
They could have.
Yeah, they signed the paperwork today, and messages were sent out to all NHL teams saying they're open to trading now.
We were correct. Neuwirth and Pierre-Edouard Bellemare received 2-year extensions.
Yeah, so big question mark, kind of, for me in the Philadelphia organization on re-signing Neuwirth, but then saying you're going to lock up Stolarz. So basically, at the end of the day, they're going to have to re-sign Mason as well, or just pray that Vegas doesn't pick up Neuwirth.
Maybe they sign him to an extension to shy away Las Vegas, or I don't know. Maybe who knows? Honestly.
And what were the rumors you saw about Claude? Because I remember looking at him, and
I went to bed very anxious.
And it's was it Montreal tied into him?
There was 4 teams. The Los Angeles Kings wanted a top center, as did Montreal, Ottawa, and the New York Islanders.
Oh my God, that would have been so scary if Duchesne and Giroux went to the Islanders.
I went to bed around 1:30 last night, and that was one of the last things I saw on Twitter. And I went to bed a very anxious man, not knowing if I was going to wake up and have my captain donning a different shade of orange heading going to the Islanders or heading out to the West Coast. I almost considered not just taking a day off if I woke up and saw that. That would have been just not. Oh my God! I can't even. I'm just glad the 3 o'clock came around and he was still in the orange, black, and white.
Yeah, that was probably pretty tough for you.
Thanks. I felt like I was in the rumor.
All right, and with that, we're going to come back and bring in Paul Barker to the studio so we can touch on the Buffalo Sabres and what they basically didn't do at the deadline. They did make one trade, and we'll talk about that when we return from this break. So we'll be right back.
Don't turn my mic on. I hear him.
And we're back here on Puck Chat. Kyle, that was your voice on that ad.
Yes, it was. I'm famous, man.
Yeah, I know.
You like that?
Woo-wee! Why do you... That's your go-to.
I love
that is your
that.
go-to.
You know,
There you are, Paul.
I'm back.
Paul stepped out from it. Paul's back here now to talk Sabres hockey now. Just about 10:23. So, the only move that the Sabres made at the deadline was they traded away Dan Catanazzi to the New York Rangers for Matt Bodie, a young defenseman. Huge move. Blockbuster.
I think it's very good for the depth of our defense.
Yeah, I actually do like it. It definitely is a good... I was hoping that was just a setup to get depth at defense to the trade away Kulikov and Franzen, but nothing happened after that.
Yeah, I was kind of upset that we didn't see one of those guys go because we could have probably got a little bit in return that we needed for more depth. But I guess he just didn't get the right price he wanted. And I saw an article, I don't know if you saw it, but they said they were at the rink late last night till about 12:30, talking trades, trying to make calls late last night after the game, and talking about how bad the last 3 games have been for them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you saw that article, but I read up on that. And I
saw Murray's press conference today where he said that this trade deadline was the quietest the deadline has been since his years of being in Buffalo.
Yeah, it wasn't very too exciting like around the NHL.
No, I was expecting at least one or two more moves to be made by the Sabres after that one with the Rangers. I mean, nothing happened at all. I was really hoping that somebody was going to bite on Kulikov, or maybe even get a low round draft pick for Franzen, but nothing happened. I'm very happy they didn't trade Evander Kane. They did not need to trade Evander Kane. I put out an article the other day how if the only way that an Evander Kane trade makes sense is if they got a top 4 defenseman in return. So, like I said earlier, there were talks about him getting tied in with Nashville and getting James Neal. That just doesn't make sense to me at all.
The only reason I think we should have traded Evander Kane this year is because if he has a down year next year and we want to get rid of him at the deadline next year because he will become a free agent, and he has a down year, we can't really get a lot in return for him next year. That's the only reason I saw him getting rid of him this year because he's having a very good year, I think.
He is, but that's the Evander Kane that the Sabres got when they made that trade with Winnipeg. I don't think teams are going to look at the first half of this Sabres season of what he did as much as what he's doing in the second half. And even if he does get off to a slow start, teams should know that this is a very good hockey player. I'm going to call him elite because if you go out and score about 30 goals in the NHL, you're almost elite. So I think if teams see that he's going to still go out and probably put up 30 goals after getting off to a very slow start that he did, I think that they're still going to value that, especially if they're just looking for a rental player to make a cup push.
I agree with you on that because I think teams will still want him even though he has a down year next year because they know what kind of presence he'll bring to the ice every night with his speed, his physicality. He can get in fights if they need him to. He can just be a presence out there on the ice.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even if he does have a down year, or if he has a good year next year, I still wouldn't want to trade him unless if the Sabres are still not in the right spot for playoffs. But I would not jump the gun too early. I would not even want to think about trading Evander Kane till the deadline.
I'm going to bring up a name for you. Me and my dad were talking about upcoming free agents. It's not this year, but the following year is Johnny Tavares. My dad said the Sabres might try and make a run at him when he becomes a free agent in 2 years. What do you think of that?
Why? Because his uncle was a Buffalo Bandit?
I don't know if that's why or just the Sabres. He works there and maybe he can get an inside scoop of what they want to try and do. But that name got brought up of an upcoming free agent, not this year, but the following year after that.
I think
that's legal.
I think that all depends on where the Islanders are sitting. I mean, if they make the playoffs this year, and if Johnny T keeps doing what he's doing, I mean, I think that's one of those guys that I think could be an Islander for life unless somebody really brought the right offer to him or he was very unhappy with his position in New York if they weren't winning. I think that as long as New York is still in the hunt for playoffs and still floating around that mark, I don't think Johnny T is going to leave New York. I
saw an article that this year he wasn't too happy with the Islanders organization, but that could all change in a matter of a year. And like you said, he might want to stay in New York because that's where he's been his whole career.
Exactly.
But that's just the name my dad and I were talking about in the upcoming free agency.
I'm going to have to look at that because there's not too many exciting ones this year at all. It's a very boring free. All the guys that we talk about are on this trade list. I mean, you got Shattenkirk, Ben Bishop, Iginla, who's probably going to retire in my guess, Thomas Vanek, Streit, Eric Fair. Yeah, so nothing really too exciting. I mean, the Sabres have Franzen, Kulikov. Actually, no, is Franzen?
Yep, Gianta.
Franzen, Gianta, Kulikov. Who else? Gergensons. And then all their goalies, Olmark, Leonard, and Nielsen.
Foligno's, is he restricted or unrestricted?
Foligno is going to be unrestricted.
Really? Well, he's a free agent this year, too. All three goalies, Kulikov, Franzen. Yeah, they got a lot of free agents upcoming.
They got to have a big offseason. Since they didn't do anything now, they got to do something in the offseason. The only way that I see this team going out and be better than they are this year is if they increase their defensive play because it has been terrible. I would still like for them to somehow, on God's green earth, to clear up some cap space and make a push at Ben Bishop.
Ben Bishop? Who else is a free agent? They probably don't have money for Shattenkirk. TJ Oshie is a free agent. I saw him on the top list. I was just looking at the list here. Hold on, let me look. Patrick Sharp, Markov.
Alexander Radulov. He's had a good year for Montreal.
He has a very good year for Montreal.
Hey, Ryan Miller's a free agent.
Yeah, Sabres can go get him round 2. But all in all, do you think that not making any moves at this deadline was good for them? Or do you think that they needed to make moves?
I think all in all, it was okay.
Because the reason why I'm asking you is because you're also you're more of a realistic fan, not really like the raging tweeters that I see.
I mean,
Like,
I threw a couple tweets out there last night because I was kind of upset. I want to talk about this for a few minutes. I don't know if you noticed it, but they get up 2 goals, and they get so happy. They lay back, and they just try to get the puck out of their zone, and the other team just comes back into the zone, and we end up, they blow the comebacks every time. Well, they blow the lead every time. They get up 2 goals. They don't try and generate any offense. So the other teams generate all the offense in the third period, and we end up losing the game.
That is a common theme, but because you see, like you know, that game, when you see losing to Colorado, losing to Arizona,
We're now losing to Nashville.
but before that, you see everybody go out there saying, "Oh, trade deadline! All right, just clean house. Everybody just sell, sell, sell." This team does not need another sell mode. This team does not need another rebuild. That is not what this team needs right now.
No, not at all.
If they go through another rebuild, then Buffalo fans are going to be waiting another 7 years to see playoffs.
It's not what Buffalo fans want.
You should not be in a rebuild mode when you have a decent core of offensive weapons, and the only thing you're really looking for
It's defense.
is defensemen. You got Ryan O'Reilly, Jack Eichel, Sam Reinhart, Kyle Okposo,
Evander
Kane, all coming back next year. Ennis is going to come back next year, even though I'm not a
young
huge
guys.
fan
Justin
of Ennis.
Bailey stepping up. You got Evan Rodriguez stepping up.
Yep.
I even think William Carrier has played a strong role on the team too.
I think he has too. We talked about this before. Even though he's not
Even though he
producing with numbers,
Yeah.
but he's a very good hard skater.
Physical,
Physical,
Very
gets in on the
physical.
forecheck, and he produces opportunities. It's just, you know, he's not always out there with the greatest group of individuals. Sometimes he's thrown on a line with Molson and, say, Gergensons, but
He was on that first line for a while, and he was actually helping out Kyle Okposo and O'Reilly with the good hard forecheck, trying to get them the puck and generate opportunities.
Mm-hmm. But this team does have a good farm system. So what I would really like to see in the offseason if they made trades, get rid of those guys that you're paying huge money to, bring in some more depth at defense, or even bring in a big name if you can. But
A defenseman, hopefully.
this
I
team,
think our goalie-
this team has such a surplus in offense right now, but I don't want them to touch Rochester. I really want them to look at Rochester. I want them to dish off the guys like Molson, Ennis, Gergensons if he's even on the team next year if they extend his contract, which I don't think they will, by the way.
He's a restricted free agent, I thought. Though.
No, he's an unrestricted because last year they qualified his offer and he was a restricted free agent. I'm almost positive.
I think if we sign Nielsen or Leonard, they will keep us in games next year.
I think they will too.
Because they keep us in games this year. The only problem is they're getting 30 to 40 shots every game because our defense is just letting guys walk in.
They
And
gave up 40 shots in regulation in Nashville.
They give up 40 shots like a game. You see the shots that... Help me out. The shots that aren't taken.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
No, the shots that aren't taken.
Shots attempted?
Shots attempted. They give up about 70 shots attempted a game.
Yeah, and then they give up like 35 shots on goal a game. That can't happen.
And our goalies are still holding us in games, and we just... Our defense is letting them down. So I think if they bring in a good defenseman in the offseason, I think we may be okay for next year. Because we have the offense, and we have a goalie that can keep us in games.
Yeah,
If
I
they bring
agree.
Nielsen or Leonard back.
I agree. That was me and Paul going on a rant. That was
Oh,
good.
you got anything, new Sabres fan over here?
Yeah, Cole. Cole knows some hockey now. Right, Cole?
Kyle, anything
Yeah.
about the Sabres?
No, I'm just going to sit back, relax, and listen to you guys go ballistic.
Nice.
I do agree, though. Something had to happen. You had pieces, and you saw what other teams were able to get out of the likes of, Steve Ott and a 38-year-old Mark Streit. Kulikov and Franson are still late 20s, early 30s. They have value to a team in contention.
I honestly like Kulikov.
And if you don't see them as a piece of as a part of your future as a franchise, what better time than now? I mean, you saw a lot of under-the-radar moves where their teams actually received a lot more than they should have for more or less role players, and that's what Kulikov and Franzen were. They could potentially be top 4 defensemen on different strategies, and they had value. They did. And it just kind of boggled my mind at their age and at their contract situation that they didn't, generate more interest, and if they did have interest, why a trigger wasn't pulled.
The only guy that I would like maybe stay around is Kulikov, because I like Kulikov on our defense. The guy I want to see go is probably Franzen,
Yep.
Georges,
Yep.
and Bogosian.
Yep.
Bogosian is having a very bad year, and I honestly thought he was a pretty good defenseman.
I thought he was too. He brought a lot of grit to the team. He brought a lot of grit to the team. Very physical. I mean,
another thing that brought Kulikov's trade value down is the injuries he had this year.
okay, did you see the one at the beginning of the year why he was injured? Do you know why he was injured?
No.
Because do you remember the first couple games where the door on the bench kept opening?
Mm-hmm.
He fell into it and he with his butt. Viewer discretion is advised. I read the article that he cut his butthole.
Probably did something to his tailbone.
Yeah,
That is not good. I've hurt my tailbone before. It is not good. You can't sit very comfortably.
Yeah, that was the first one, because I remember watching the first couple games, and every single time there was a hit along the bench, the door would just open. He fell into it, and it just...
The maintenance people are going to have to get on that.
Yeah. Another...
Sabres rant.
Yeah, another Sabres rant here, a little past the 10:30 hour. We've been talking about an hour here in WMCB The Fuse. Got Cole working on some homework.
Yeah.
Cole's got his game face on, finishing up a project. But that's just about it here on Puck Chat. Next episode probably going to come from you from Winter Haven, Florida.
Florida.
We're going to be down there for our annual baseball spring trip. So keep you updated on next time we're going to be doing a Puck Chat show, but our weekly Tuesday podcast should come as followed, but just at a different time, probably in the evening. But with that, I'm Connor. Kyle's behind me. Paul's to my right, along with Cole over there. Have a good night here at WMCB The Fuse.